claim it's fake news or a setup, but nope, Mendy remained mute. Made no justifications or denials, just stillness on the radio. And that silence spoke volumes. This goes beyond clumsy reality TV. Drama is about the lives of actual people, disintegrating. When the man who's meant to be a transformed individual and a pillar for his lady in labor is haunted by family spirits. It is painful and incredibly disheartening. And enraged Mendy's behavior or inaction is a chilly reminder that sometimes atonement tales are not reality. They are simply tales. Mendy's silence speaks for itself. Volumes, and it's all bad, whether it's a premeditated maneuver or a denial of guilt. To preserve his reputation, it's all a kind of desertion in a situation when Erica was battling for her life, literally. It wasn't necessary to use fancy or flawless wording, motions. Its existence was obvious and straightforward. And the fact that he was unable to even let her know that it's not only it's heartbreaking if it's disappointing, guilt, then perhaps he understands in his heart that he failed on a human level. Perhaps he is as well. Spares to acknowledge the true nature of his absence if the cost is denial. He's avoiding the truth by avoiding her. About his current self, but whether it's a tactic, a chilly endeavor to preserve one's reputation and avoid responsibility, while hoping the worst type of storm blows over. Of treachery of the type that transforms turning a person's suffering into a PR issue. And how does Erica even start to get better? As a result, she is coping with emotional stress while recuperating physically, and rather than being accompanied by a partner, she is now forced to defend herself online. Defending oneself against rumors, and that type of anguish doesn't just go away in silence. It's diminish. It becomes internalized. It alters your level of trust, way you view yourself and how you adore it. Then additionally, there is the public embarrassment when someone makes fun of, kicks, and strikes her. When she's in a vulnerable moment that threatened life and wasn't merely it was nasty and insulting. And the fact that most people on the internet agreed with her just underscores how obvious Mendy's everyone could see the absence. Felt that there isn't a sufficient justification to cover that type of quiet at the end. This goes beyond Erica's injury. It concerns her being abandoned when she needed someone to heal her the most from such treachery. It will need the reality of time and most likely space from anyone who caused her to feel throwaway, since when words don't work and when acts don't occur, all that remains is the pain, and nobody can help should be required to shoulder that alone. The breaking point was the courtroom moment, not only for Erica, but also for all those who had been observing this development in the hopes perhaps humanity was still present. In observing Erica deteriorate under the weight of everything as he sat still. It was distant, almost unconcerned. Unsettling, it seemed like a glimpse of who, when there are no camera contracts, he truly is, or carefully chosen photos are used. And people observed the quiet and absence of hurry, and the reluctance to even glance was impacted. And it's not just chilly. Soul-deep fans of detachment didn't only respond. They created disgusting hashtags and thought fragments comparing his past side by side with his TV growth arc versus his actual life in action, which combined to produce a tidal surge of backlash because, at its core, the question is quite straightforward. Can someone who deserts those they say they trust and love throughout their worst moments? Is there a way to be saved again? When your quiet turned into someone else's, exposing the reality of Mendy ever having an opportunity to rectify this. But it's not through Instagram or PR apologies or redemption captions. Assuming it's even possible, it must originate from sincere accountability that doesn't need seeking pardon, but gradually gains it by altering behavior and making it apparent assistance even when no one is looking. But even that may not be sufficient, because there are instances such as the one in that courtroom that changes forever the way others see you, not simply your fans, but those that supported you throughout the worst moments. Erica is quite entitled to close that chapter indefinitely to safeguard herself from more of the same. Therefore, is he able to resolve this? Perhaps, but not in the manner he believes, via making amends, but by taking an honest, unpleasant look at the harm he has caused. And if he refuses to do that, then perhaps the reality is that he wasn't involved. Perhaps this is who he has consistently been, and the mask simply slid at last. Wow. That creates a sorrowful and eerie image of Erica in the midst of unspeakable suffering, and dealing with a potentially fatal situation was emotionally isolating and physically. But Mendy, the individual who, where was her rock supposed to be observed strolling outdoors with her hood up, unable to confront what was occurring within, and then vanishing into the darkness. Just the visual conveys a lot about where the truth lies in his priorities and bravery. That he was captured on video close by but chose to leave rather than getting involved simply makes the situation worse. It's about more than simply neglect. Leaving her when she most needed him, without a doubt, the difference could not be sharper. Erica is delicate but indestructible. Was battling one of the hardest, horrifyingly terrible times in her life. Doctors surrounded by machines doubted and carried it out without the one who ought to have been keeping her. That level of strength is unadulterated, visceral, and enduring, and it elevated Mendy's absence, which is much more noticeable. While Erica appeared physically, emotionally, and mentally, Mendy disappeared. No call, no text. Quiet, no acknowledgement, and in that he worked in silence. So difficult to depict in public, started to disassemble the tale of the rehabilitated guy. The path of salvation, influenced by reality television and the carefully planned social media moments, fell apart. Weighed down by his actual life decisions that people don't just forget when someone goes missing during a crisis. They recall who took the initiative and who retreated. Even while Erica remains steadfast in her suffering, Mendy's reputation instantly deteriorated. It wasn't simply criticized online. Suddenly, fans weren't just considering his recent actions. They were reconsidering all of their beliefs that they were aware of him. Was it all a performance, or was progress ever real? It's created to safeguard his reputation while ignoring those who were actually in need. His strength, at the end of the day, it is silently revealed in who appears, who raises their voice, and who falls silent. Erica's suffering turned into her strength. His legacy was quiet, and now, whatever narrative he attempts to market next, the truth has already seized the mic. This is one of those times when just how messier real life can be, and harsher than any screenplay for a reality TV show. What consequences do you anticipate? Can Mendy rebuild anything from following this, or is he done playing? The public's perception of the circumstances are quite terrible, and tragically. Erica's bravery and vulnerability when giving birth, by yourself to potentially fatal issues, and still first, considering the father of her child, demonstrate the fortitude and suffering behind the situations that are rarely shown on reality TV. Precisely Shashakusa's voice in full. The final nail in the coffin was the note. Eliminated any lingering uncertainty regarding where Mendy truly prioritizes ignoring your own child's birth. If you're worried about how you may watching TV isn't only self-centered, it's a total disregard for its meaning to be a father, a man, and a partner, in that Mendy made a confession that was absolutely clear, evident that his image is more important than his. It's not about fear, family, it's about he wasn't concerned about being in charge. It's present for Erica, or the arrival of his kid into the world that concerned him, perceptions of how he could appear if he was found sliding. As he stated, sort of deliberate distance doesn't originate from ego, and ego not from love. It is inappropriate in a medical setting where a mother is struggling to give birth to your child. Not only is the betrayal emotional, but it's existential, since Erica believes that Tit was a life or death situation, and bravery, vulnerability, and strength were encased in one. And as she was, Mendy offered everything. Yet she didn't give anything. His absence, lack of assistance, and even truthfulness's decency. Until that voice, even after the memo was revealed, it wasn't regret that we were told. It was justification that folks observed when it happened and witnessed the mask fall in real time. A guy who previously requested forgiveness and comprehension on television. He disclosed himself to be someone more devoted to his public image as opposed to those who helped elevate him in the background. After then, you don't return with flowers as well as I apologize. Please return if you can. Carrying out the laborious, quiet task of creating everything is correct. However, the question is if Mendy was even interested in trying. The objective is always to safeguard the brand. Even if he would have to lose his soul in the procedure. Yandy's remark, "There's power in showing up," is a subdued yet effective reminder that living in the now entails anything. Particularly during times like these, supporters of Erica are only, of course. She was the one who arrived. It made a difference. And now the public is calling VH1. Anticipating some sort of responsibility or reaction shows how this goes far beyond being merely personal. Drama is about the actual repercussions, abandonment and neglect, and how it impacts family. Do you believe this might result in a change in how reality television manages or depicts these intensely private times? Or is this just another controversy that has been forgotten? Never-ending drama loop. Just when the receipts began to fall. The game over that medical record attesting. Mendy was approached but decided to stay. Silence is more than simply negligence. Willful neglect is what it offered the public. Something indisputable to highlight concrete proof that he was aware of the opportunity to appear. And he consciously decided not to cause any harm at that time. Control could mellow the unvarnished reality. Next followed the cleansing of social media. Unfollowing and removing that admission, since it's shocking. The type of declaration that doesn't just harm people's reputations by erasing them, declaring that he wasn't prepared to have another kid and questioning Erica's sincerity turns what responsibilities should be shared. Carelessness is more than simply a personal issue. Failing is an obvious indication of disrespect and immaturity that performs poorly everywhere, particularly in demonstrating the importance of image and responsibility. You did a fantastic job calling this the love and hip and career homicide. VH1 producers of Hops are undoubtedly in a bind with this type of explosive. On the one hand, drama attracts viewers, but conversely, they run the risk of offending those who desire genuine narrative, not merely sensationalism that goes beyond moral lines. They must cautiously walk, weighing audience anger against legal hazards and their obligation to the actor's well-being in relation to the dynamics of the show. Mendy will tremble whether she is there or not. Drastically alter things if he attempts to retaliating might lead to more turmoil with legal disputes and public dangers and a conflict of stories that may eclipse everyone else that may continue to draw attention to him, but it runs the risk of seeming desperate or defensive, thus harming his, on the other hand, credibility. Getting out of the spotlight might be more secure wager for him, at least within the sometimes a little period of stillness might be silent. Time is cooling the flames due to the backlash. However, in practice, TV absence frequently speaks as loudly as the cast and presence of fans. Both will investigate his disappearance. It's a declaration of defeat or guilt, ultimately, whichever course Mendy decides to take. The show's ripple effects will be enormous. We'll probably need to adjust their emphasis. More about the repercussions and Erica's narrative while tackling the more general concerns of responsibility, recovery, and whether Mendy attempts to return without sincere development and repentance. From the audience and the credibility of the show could not be ready to forget or forgive. This story unquestionably evolved into a full-scale Mendy's public admission of guilt for his apologies. Well-known statement about never intending to harm someone yet feeling insecure in the midst of, at best, the drama seems tone-deaf and evasive at worst. When someone doesn't show up for such a pivotal time results in actual suffering. Phrases alone cannot undo the harm done to the public. And more crucially, the judicial system is more than just curious about his emotions. These days, this goes well beyond optics. About actual responsibility and repercussions the sponsors hit is particularly sneakers and vicious fitness brands. Businesses are more than their appearance, symbolize dependability, health, and trustworthiness. Upon those brands, public disassociation. His actions convey a clear message, significant indication that his behavior is inconsistent with the principles they wish to further. Public disassociation of that type is like a death knell for a career in today's the influencer-driven environment. Is one losing supporters is one thing, but losing financial support as well as expert credibility before attempting a live look? It's the type of action that indicates the true depth of the issue. Behind the scenes, there's more to it. It's about avoiding embarrassing questions, minimizing harm, and admitting that the consequences are more extensive than any short returning can correct the ripple effect. Unquestionably, this is more than a hiccup in the road. It's a full-on derailment. Mendeecees' future at this time appears questionable without sponsors in the public eye, assistance, or a clear route to real atonement. He has a hard road ahead of him. On a personal and professional level, the only way to proceed would be to take serious self-reflection and genuine accountability and regular behavior rather than merely meaningless sorry for picture management. Otherwise, this chapter might perhaps signal the end of his career as he is aware of it. Yes, that private conversation was leaked. When Mendy acknowledges that he ought to have abandoned Erica as soon as she disclosed its icy chili that she was pregnant, eliminates any appearance of regret or accountability and exposes a cruel reality of his thinking. It's not only a thoughtless remark, that is devastating. It's a mission that shows how profoundly selfish and heartless he has been. He has been responsible for the situations with a deeper level of coldness than any drama on screen could. Remarks made by Yandy's brother on a man's when no one else is around, genuine character shines. Observing with such resonance here, it's a glaring reminder that famous figures may be only smoke and reflections of the actual measure of a person's actions in when the cameras are not in use. Yandy and her family's history of silently bearing this great load for years balances out the problem. Even worse, it feels like a pressure cooker, blowing the lid at last, and now everything that was concealed is blowing apart. Leaving Yandy's video in the open and abandoning her wedding ring is both tragically and fiercely bolstering the few words I kept safe. Someone who would never defend me once more expresses in great detail the suffering of treachery and the fortitude required to let me sum up by saying that this is a time of raw vulnerability combined with a strong recovery of her value. Then, there's the last voicemail left by Erica before the delivery. Letting something slip right before such a crucial moment just serves to feed an already burning flame. It's obvious that this story isn't slowing down in the near future. If anything, it seems like the conflict and consequences will continue raising the stakes and bringing more facts to light and compelling all parties to face the seething issues below the surface for too long. There's no nice resolution in sight, but it's still raw. The difficult process and untidy real life of addressing the repercussions, to be honest. Its entire problem seems to be moving slowly. Mendeecees unraveling. The type where every error and every justification only served to delve more into his voicemail, exposing really a combination of denial and wariness demonstrates. A guy enmeshed in his own web of avoidance who is reluctant or unable to completely face the consequences of his actions. He is not a victim, which makes it nearly terrible. But since he appears to be caught in a loop of deflection, that's only making him faster. Decline in light of all the indisputable evidence that was placed against him. The public communications were released from hospital logs. It's quiet and the deafening criticism. The likelihood that he might salvage his reputation seems slender. At your finest, atonement in the being in the spotlight isn't difficult. Yet it needs much more than just words. Long-term, real transformation and responsibility at this time. Mendy hasn't displayed any genuine indications of such. Instead, he seemed to be lost in making excuses. story that isn't consistent under examination, but Erica is silent. One of the most remarkable qualities is strength. Elements of this whole, that picture of her newborn wrapped in satin in lavender with the remark, "She is a strong agency reclaim without drama." No justifications, just a lovely proclamation of resilience and fresh birth. She seems to be saying, "This is my truth. Now let the picture do the talking," more than any words could possibly say to her. Strength is not loud. Disputes, but in a calm at this point, the tale feels dignified. Less about Mendeecees' diminishing fame and further information on the ladies, who have had to, if there is any chance, bear his failings. For healing or closure, it will originate from their voices and their limits, and their capacity to proceed, not their terms. He's precisely the quiet in the birthing room. Its title couldn't be more fitting. The eerie gap where assistance ought to have been, where the expected words were found but never arrived. And where was responsibility? This reunion was terribly missed, removing the glamour and spectacle to expose the unfiltered, unpleasant realities of treachery and desertion that surpasses predetermined. Erica's exit from entertainment was a gut punch moment, and is a powerful demonstration of self-preservation in the face of turmoil. Demonstrating that isn't only a plot that should be worked out and forgotten after the cameras had stopped recording. It is a genuine human encounter with severe emotional costs. Her choice to put herself first, mental health made it quite evident that how much drama or ratings are worth putting your health at risk. What's so powerful about this reunion is the way it compels all viewers to face the repercussions of these broken relationships in real time. It serves as a clear reminder that behind each there are explosive scenes on reality TV, actual individuals battling suffering, trauma, and disappointment. This wasn't a raw show episode. It's uncomfortable. Examine how treachery might reverberate well beyond the spotlight. I hope that this reunion will push the discussion on responsibility and emotional accountability going ahead. Not only for the actors, but also for the audience, and the entire reality TV industry is a moment that requires greater compassion and less abuse, greater recovery, and less spectacle. As the event, ultimately, these tales are based on actual events, and the quiet in the birthing room gave voice to this stillness was long overdue. Heard definitely when a parent doesn't show up throughout the most important times in life. The repercussions are much more profound than the absence. Right now, it's not only about losing someone physically, it's about the emotional vacuum that such quiet produces. For a kid, particularly a baby, the parent's presence and assistance lay the basis for security, trust, and attachment in the absence of that support. It may cause the youngster to lose their sense of security and inclusion from the beginning, as being absent is difficult. Whether resolved or ignored, it leaves emotional wounds that might impact the child's growth, self-worth, and prospects. Connections in the instance of Mendeecees' quietness when his kid was born don't just stand for a minute lost. There is a break in what ought to have been a loving and protecting function that not stepping up is more than simply a personal issue. If not, it violates the most fundamental parenting obligations that cause pain. Its effects are not limited to that particular instant. It has an effect on the entire family dynamic that affects the kid, as well as this encapsulates Mendeecees' behavior. It feels less like a moment when it doesn't involve vulnerability and more akin to a full-on unwillingness to take action. Timidity shrouded in ego, in particular, is painful to observe, particularly being aware of the effect on Erica and that naive. You're making a point, youngster. VH1 does more than merely broadcast. It also performs the role of gatekeeper, influencing the behaviors that become accepted or denounced, like Mendeecees' removal from the show, would undoubtedly make a powerful statement. That neglect and abandonment, in particular during crucial times like childbirth and postpartum recuperation, will not be accepted or exaggerated to boost ratings. Reality TV has frequently prospered on poisonous drama, but viewers, are becoming more urgent for responsibility and moral narratives that honor the authentic. Erica deserves the folks behind the cameras. Much more than merely acting as a dramatic figure for viewers, she is deserving of sincere peace, courtesy, and assistance from her tale is making money for the entire business. And suffering women's emotional burden cycle work while men avoid accountability is firmly established. And the amusement the world has long maintained that the story needs to change dynamically. Genuine dedication from producer networks with fans asking VH1 to do better. I would want to see them do more than merely reduce toxins in cast members, but also make an effort to tell Erica's tale with respect and subtlety. Kindness showcasing her resilience and recovery process without making her suffering seem dramatic. This would be a strong change that offers venues for discussions on mental health, postpartum difficulties, and responsibilities. Such partnerships would also aid in raising the conversation goes beyond visuals. Regarding viewers, I believe a lot of them want to see fairness and assistance for those injured, instead of merely continuing the drama. They seek growth and effects of authenticity that depict reality rather than merely television ratings. What would you think? I hope VH1 takes the next step to genuinely honor the show's movement and Erica's experience towards a more dignified and accountable location.